the Rangers flipped the script and won a game on the strength of their bullpen, picking up their subpar starting pitching. On today's show, bring down another great game for the Rangers bullpen, winning the series opener against the Tigers, and Corey Seager continuing to be dominant. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Tuesday, May 30th, and your Rangers are 34-19, still alone atop the AL West. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Before we get into today's game, the Rangers winning 5-0 over the Tigers in this series opener. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB, and when you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, they will throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Now, the Rangers stay hot after a huge series win this weekend in Baltimore against one of the best teams in the American League. The Rangers head out to Detroit, and a team that's actually doing really well. Second place in the American League Central. I know that it's the worst division in baseball. I know that they are having all kinds of issues in the AL Central, and nobody's really all that good, but the Tigers are doing much better than I expected. Their offense is better than expected. The starting pitching is fine. The Rangers are honestly probably pretty glad that they are missing Eduardo Rodriguez, the ace of the staff, and probably an all-star this year, who's been fantastic, but the Rangers are missing him, and the Rangers are very glad because they came out of this one and their starting pitching was not quite as great as it had been. Eovaldi kind of scuffled in this one, but the offense was able to pick it up in a really, really weird inning. But a big picture, the Rangers are staying hot in May. They have one of, if not, I think the best record in all of baseball in the month of May so far. They have eclipsed their win total from April. There's still a couple of days left in the month of May. The Rangers keep winning. They have an harder schedule in the month of May, and they have a better record against those teams than they did in the month of April. When I was talking about leading up to the season, the Rangers really need to get out to a hot start because May is going to be a little bit harder. June's definitely going to be a lot harder. I know that that's going to be the case, but this Rangers team showed that it is up to snuff. The Rangers had a really, really weird inning in the fifth. In the top of the fifth, just a super weird series of events and a rule that I have never seen called before. And it did not go in the Rangers' favor, but they were able to bounce back from it. The situation was there was Robbie Grossman on first base, Bubba Thompson up at the plate. He places a perfect bunt down the first base line. The pitcher fields it, and Bubba Thompson is literally running on the line through the base path, steps on the bag, and gets hit in the back with the throw. And because of some weird and confusing and stupid rule, he gets called out. And not only is Bubba Thompson out, but the runner that was at first base has to go back to first base, cannot advance to second base, which was just incredibly infuriating. I mean, it's a dumb rule. It doesn't make any sense. And when they were fixing every single rule in all of baseball, they were changing, the pitch timer and the shift rules and the everything else. Why did they not fix this one? This is not a play that comes up a whole bunch, but there's literally nowhere for Bubba Thompson to go. He just goes straight up the line, and because this rule is so poorly worded and there's no room for replay or review or challenging or even umpire discretion, it's just, he got hit in the back there with that throw, and even though there's literally nowhere else for him to go, he gets ruled out. And that was honestly just incredibly frustrating, but it didn't end up mattering because Corey Seager came up huge. I mean, at that point, there was 2 outs in the inning. Robbie Grossman on first base. She thought, okay, well, the Rangers are going to waste a leadoff walk. Well, that's not the case. Marcus Semien worked a walk, got runners on first and second, and Corey Seager stepped to the plate and gets the hangingest of hanging breaking balls and just absolutely demolishes it for a 3-run bomb, gives the Rangers the 3-run lead, and that would be all the Rangers needed. The Rangers pitchers did not give up a single run in this one, and Corey Seager again coming up in the clutch. He also added another run driven in later on in this game. The Rangers had the bases loaded with no outs. Marcus Semien in the 7th inning, I believe it was. Yeah, the 7th inning, the Rangers got the bases loaded with no outs. Marcus Semien drove a sac fly out to center field, scored Leody Taveras. Corey Seager was not quite able to hit another 3-run homer, but settles for an RBI single and a 5-run lead with the Rangers heading into the bottom of the 7th inning. So they had a bullpen that needed 3 innings with a 5-run lead. Thought, okay, that's probably doable. Rangers bullpen had a 3-run lead when they came into it because Nathan Eovaldi was only able to go 5 innings. But I know Corey Seager, looking at his last 7 games, he has a 6-game hitting streak with exactly 1 hit in all of those games, but he is absolutely smashing the baseball. In those last 7 games, he is hitting just .222, but he's slugging .481, 2 home runs, and I believe a pair of doubles. He just absolutely stings the baseball, and he's just running into some bad luck, which is kind of what happened to him last year. While all of his expected numbers were so incredibly high, but the actual numbers were not quite as high. Still, he is absolutely crushing it this year. He's hitting .329 with an on-base of .396 and slugging .610, an OPS of 1,006 so far this year. And the expected numbers are right about where they were last year. They're all indicating that this is the real deal. This is the real Corey Seager. None of this is a fluke by any means. And, he just deserves to be having this level of sustained success. And having it from your shortstop is just, it's honestly incredible. Like, I feel like we take it for granted. At least I know I do. And doing a crossover with Locked On Orioles, Connor Newcomb said if there was one player he could steal and put on the Orioles, it would be Corey Seager. And talking about the depth of this lineup and having Nathaniel Lowe and Corey Seager back-to-back, or Corey Seager then Nathaniel Lowe back-to-back, of 2 lefties that hit lefties very, very well, makes it incredibly difficult on opposing bullpens when you're late in the game and you're going to have to face the top of the Rangers order. Think, okay, well, normally you could bring in a lefty and take out those 2 lefties in a row, which the Rangers do a really good job of balancing their lineup of having a bunch of righties, a bunch of lefties, a bunch of switch hitters. So you can't really, with those new rules of the relievers having to face 3 guys, everybody in this lineup does pretty well against, they have fairly even splits, but I mean, lefties are absolutely being destroyed by Corey Seager and Nathaniel Lowe this season. And Seager just getting that kind of production from your shortstop, I think we took it, at least I took it for granted, because Ezequiel Duran just came in and did basically the exact same thing, which was also really incredible. I mean, the Rangers getting great offensive production from their shortstops, that's something this team hasn't really seen in a long time, basically since Alex Rodriguez. This is the kind of production that Corey Seager is putting up for the Rangers. It's just incredible. It should not be overstated. Like, it cannot be overstated how important those guys are of Seager. And also from Semien. I mean, just going and spending this money to get good baseball players on your baseball team to go and have success. It's like, oh yeah, you can actually do that. That's a real thing. Even if you can't home grow a Corey Seager or a Marcus Semien, and they have homegrown a pretty darn good infielder in Josh Jung, who's on a terrific tear. But you can just go out and get those guys in free agency if your payroll is down towards the scrubs, and if you are a big market team and you can afford to go do that. And all these other owners are just overthinking it and thinking, I don't really, is Corey Seager really worth $325 million? Yeah, he absolutely is. He is providing more than that amount of value to this Rangers team. He's stinging the ball even harder than he did last year. His average exit velocity is up to 96.3 miles per hour. That's the average. The average ball off of his bat is more than a hard hit. The hard hit barometer, it's 95 miles an hour. Anything more than 95 or higher counts as a hard hit ball. He's also barreling the absolute crap out of the baseball. 18% of his plate appearances in 18.8% of his plate appearances yes, that's it. Nearly 19%. Basically 1 out of every 5 trips to the plate, he is barreling a baseball and absolutely demolishing it. And basically every ball off his bat is a hard hit ball, because that's just what he does. And sometimes they just don't end up finding holes. Like in the game against Baltimore, when he had 104 mile an hour ball off the bat that ended up being a line drive double play because Marcus Semien didn't quite get a good read off of it, and that could have ended up making the difference in this game. That ball had a 730 average expected batting average on it. 730, and it's a double play, because that's just kind of what happens. Then he comes back the the next at bat and laces an RBI double off one of the best relief pitchers in the game and ties the game up for the Rangers, because that's what Corey Seager does. And this one, he gets that hanging breaking ball and he does not miss it. He does not miss his pitches. He is such a crucial part of this lineup that did a really great job when he was out. But again, Corey Seager is so freaking good, and I feel like we really need to appreciate him being at his apex right now, smashing baseballs and giving the Rangers some, and also some honestly pretty nice defense. We're going to talk about a jam he helped him get Nathan Eovaldi out of, and a couple of guys extending their hitting streaks, and somebody at the bottom of the lineup really coming up huge. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. There's no better time to get in on all the action on America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. There's all kinds of sports going on right now. I believe maybe as you're listening to this, the Stars will still maybe have one game. I'm recording this before the Game 6. Maybe you'll be able to bet on the Stars. Maybe you can bet on the NBA Finals, who you're feeling good about there. Maybe you can bet on Josh Jung winning Rookie of the Year. You can go check out those odds because he has been doing very well, and I bet his odds are pretty darn good, and I bet they're getting better by the day. So go check it out at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about Martin Perez and his importance to this Rangers rotation. Texas takes on the Tigers this week. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, before we get into Nathan Eovaldi's not so great start, I want to bring up, like I said, the Rookie of the Year. I'm fairly convinced in Josh Jung. He is seeing the ball incredibly well during this hit streak. A 12-game hit streak. He extended it on Monday, raised his batting average from 247 to 283 during this streak, and on base from 287 to 332. That's nearly 50 points higher, I think 45. And his slugging percentage up from 442 to 505. That is 63 points better in the slugging department. He is seeing pitches so well out of the hand. He is not getting fooled. He is not chasing. He is having exceptional at-bats, and with Adolis Garcia in a little bit of a mini slump ahead of him, and Jonah Heim maybe starting to pull out of a fairly prolonged slump behind him, it's good to get that production from your number 5 hole hitter. He has just been so consistent for the Rangers, barreling baseballs, hitting for power, playing good defense at third base, and it is very, very necessary for the Rangers to get this kind of production out of this guy. And I've talked a lot about the Rookie of the Year race, partially probably because of my Texas Tech bias and my appreciation for Josh Jung, but also partially because the Rangers will get an extra first-round draft pick if Josh Jung wins Rookie of the Year. So this is an important race, an important thing to keep track of, and it's important for the Rangers' success overall, not just for getting that first-round draft pick, but for the success of having Josh Jung be this freaking good during this time. And he's not the only one with an extended hitting streak. Marcus Semien waited until the 9th inning. I feel like he's waited for his last at bat the last couple of times out to extend that hitting streak. But Marcus Semien's hit streak is up to 18 games. Fantastic stuff for him. Also reached base on a walk. Also had that sac fly that drove in the 4th run of the game. And Leody Taveras has a 3-hit game. He has been incredible in the month of May. I'll probably talk about that a little bit more later on in this week, because he has been incredible for the Rangers, and honestly, one of the under the radar most exceptional developments for the Rangers and positive moments for them. But what's not a positive moment was Nathan Eovaldi only going 5 innings. I know 5 innings of shutout ball. You think, wow, you're getting a little bit, cocky, a little bit, entitled about your starting pitchers. 5 shutout innings, that's not quite good enough. Well, for the Rangers, with the bullpen problems that they have been having as of late, it did not feel like enough, especially for Nathan Eovaldi, who it just goes 7, 8, 9, 8.28 innings his last few times out, and him only going 5 innings was concerning. He had 3 walks in this one in just 5 innings, didn't allow any runs, and got out of a bases loaded jam from a fantastic double play turn from Corey Seager. A ball that was not hit very hard and was turned exceptionally well. Seager got to it very quickly, made an accurate throw to Semien. Semien got a very quick transfer, and Nathaniel Lowe, again, proving his value and scooping that up and getting it just ahead of the runner Haas, and they had to end up reviewing it. That changed the game. The Rangers had a scoreless game at that point. I believe it was the bottom of the second inning. And again, another Rangers starter getting out of a bases loaded, no outs jam, just like it's nothing. It did take quite a few pitches to get out of it. Eovaldi threw 95 pitches in this one and threw 5 shutout innings with a 3-0 lead. I thought, maybe you throw Eovaldi out there for another inning, but the Rangers decided against it. I think that's a smart choice by them. It was only 95 pitches, but a lot of those were high stress. Like I said, that bases loaded, no outs jam, those are some high stress pitches. And so Eovaldi, like I've said many times, he is a little delicate. He's been pitching well and he has been kept healthy. You gotta stay on top of it. You gotta be proactive. You gotta be, ahead of the game. And so not forcing him to throw too many pitches when you don't necessarily need it. You kind of can rely on your bullpen. The Rangers only needed 3 relievers in this one, and they came up big. These are the guys who the Rangers needed to have big days. And the Rangers bullpen, in 2 straight games, they have pitched a combined 8 innings, allowed 1 run, 3 hits, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. An inning from Brock Burke, 2 innings from Jonathan Hernandez, and 1 inning from Jose Leclerc. Will Smith did not have to be used at all in this one, and that is a good thing for the Rangers, saving him for a closer game. But these are all the 3 guys that the Rangers needed to have going. And I feel like everybody who is jumping in the YouTube comments to blame the bullpen, and everyone that seemed to blame the bullpen for the loss on Sunday, which was not the bullpen's fault. The Rangers offense could have done more. They only had 2 runs in that one. I know that it was frustrating, and when you get 2 innings or 5 innings of 2-run ball from Cody Bradford in the start that he did on those circumstances, that's a really good game. But with the bullpen goes 4 innings of 1-run ball, that is not the bullpen blowing it. And also every single one of them that is saying the bullpen blew it, they misspell bullpen. I don't know if there's any correlation there, but I don't know, just making comment about the comments. But 8 combined innings of 1-run ball from the bullpen in back-to-back close games. One of them the Rangers won. One of them the Rangers were not able to complete the comeback against, again, a very talented Orioles bullpen. This is exactly what the Rangers needed in their turnaround. And the 1 run was probably because they threw Reagans out there for a second inning that I don't think they should have. He looked fantastic in his first inning. I know he was charged with the 1 run, but Joe Barlow was the one on the hill when that 1 run did score. And they brought him in with runners on first and third. I believe there was no outs because he didn't get an out in that second inning of work. But Barlow had allowed all of the inherited runners he had been given this year to score. And I thought, really, you're bringing in Barlow in that situation? What does he do? He allows the first inherited runner to score. Thankfully, the runner that was on first didn't score, so the Rangers still could keep it close and go into that 9th inning against Felix Bautista with the thought of maybe we can scratch across a run and tie this game back up and send it to extra innings. But again, this was solid work from the bullpen, and especially in this Monday game, these are the 3 guys the Rangers need to have fix themselves and need to right the ship. Brock Burke, Jonathan Hernandez, and Jose Leclerc. I was a little concerned about throwing Jonathan Hernandez out there for a second inning, especially once he allowed those base runners. He got through the first inning so easily. The first 2 batters he retired on, I believe, combined 4 pitches. Ends up getting a strikeout, I believe was the last out of his inning of work. Then Jose Leclerc comes on, and of course, what does he do? He walks the leadoff batter in a 5-0 game in the top of the 9th. You think, oh my gosh, this should be fine, even if he allows a run, even if he allows a couple of runs. Hopefully the Rangers just don't have to use Will Smith in this one, and he was able to get a ground ball double play. The very next batter was able to get out of that inning without allowing any runs, without allowing any more runners on base, and that was huge for his confidence. Same with Brock Burke. He was only able to go out there for 1 inning through 15 pitches. I thought that was good. I thought that Burke, if they were going to throw somebody for multiple innings, I think that he is, over the last couple of outings, I've felt like even at his worst, I was the least concerned about his struggles. With Hernandez and Leclerc, both those guys not being able to find the strike zone, that really concerns me for guys, especially when you're wanting to have Jonathan Hernandez be a guy who I think at his peak can come in spicy situations with runners on base and in fraught situations. With Leclerc, I never want him to come in with runners on base. I always want him to have a clean inning because he does walk so many guys. Even at his peak, he is a guy who walks a lot of guys. The command and control is not super great. The stuff is still very nice in all of these guys. Leclerc, Burke, and Hernandez, all of them have very good major league caliber back end stuff, but the command with Hernandez and Leclerc has been pretty wonky this year. Hernandez, I'm more I don't know, believing that he can right the ship and have better command and be more trustworthy in those big days and big, outings. But at this point, because the Rangers bullpen has been so bad, I mean, with Will Smith being the only trustworthy reliever, as long as one of these three guys rights the ship for like a month, maybe 2 months, or just in general kind of turns it around and becomes more trustworthy, the Rangers are still going to have to trade for a bullpen arm. Like, that's still going to happen. Maybe 2 back-end relievers. Or, I don't know, maybe this new guy that the Rangers have coming up with some pretty good numbers is someone who is going to make a big impact on this team. Coming up, we're going to look at some roster moves that the Rangers made, including DFAing a guy who I believe I had my top 30 prospects as recently as last year, and a little bit of a look at an old friend and Ezequiel Duran, what his injury means for Texas. But first, this word from our sponsors. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every day. On Thursday's show, I'll recap what we learned about this team from the midweek series. The Rangers take on the Tigers this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, on this Memorial Day, the Rangers made some roster moves. They decided to option Cody Bradford back down to AAA. Grant Anderson, the reliever, was called up and put in the bullpen. And Ricky Vanasco, a right-handed starting pitcher who was in Frisco, not having the best year, not even having a good year, honestly, a kind of bad year. He was designated for assignment, scratched off the 40-man roster, so that's what the Rangers needed to do to get Grant Anderson into this bullpen. But this year he has spent time in Frisco and Round Rock. In Frisco, he had 4 appearances, 6 2/3 innings with a 2.70 ERA and 9 strikeouts. That is 12.2 strikeouts per 9 in Frisco this year. Then he got called up to the PCL, does have a 3.80 ERA in 11 games, 21 1/3 innings, 38 strikeouts. The walks are a little bit concerning. They are up significantly in AAA versus AA. In AA, he was at 1.4 walks per 9, 4.2 walks per 9 in Round Rock, but 16 strikeouts per 9 innings in 21 innings in Round Rock. That is really encouraging for his minor league career in 5 seasons. Over 10 strikeouts per 9, 10.4, nearly 10.5. He has done a good job of limiting the home runs, under 1 per 9. And the Rangers just need somebody with some strikeout stuff. And the back end of their pen, as much as I like Burke quite a bit, and Hernandez, I think, has got, the ability to have over a strikeout per inning, and same with Leclerc. But the Rangers need some guys with some strikeout stuff, and Grant Anderson is definitely one of those guys. I think the Rangers just need to keep trying things in their bullpen. The kind of mid-relief guys, Joe Barlow's of the world, the John Kings of the world, I really don't know that I trust those guys as far as I can throw them. And I can't throw them very far, so that kind of shows you how little I trust those guys. But I don't know. They've shown spurts. Both of those guys have shown spurts of being okay enough, but the Rangers need back-end talented, quality guys that they can count on, and I believe this will be Grant Anderson's major league debut whenever he does get into a game. He was drafted by the Rangers, a Port Arthur, Texas native. He was drafted by the Mariners in the 21st round, but he's been in the Rangers system for quite some time. I guess it's just since 2021. I don't know exactly how he got here because I'm not seeing a whole lot of transactions on the minor league page. Maybe the Mariners cut bait with him, but I don't know. Actually, 2019. That's when he was with the Rangers. In 2019, maybe he was part of... I can't remember who the Rangers were trading to Seattle at that point. Maybe it was... who was it? A reliever whose name I can't think of. That is now Rafael Montero. He might have been part of the Rafael Montero trade. I think that's the only Mariners-Rangers trade I can think of in 2019. But he pitched for the Rangers in Hickory in 2019, then in Frisco in 2021, because again, no minor league season in 2020, but he has been fairly consistent for the Rangers in their minor leagues of getting a lot of strikeouts. In 2022, he also split time between Round Rock and Frisco, 11.4 Ks per 9 in just under 13 innings in Round Rock last year with an ERA of 6.39, so not quite as great, but in Frisco, a 2.80 ERA in 54 2/3 innings and 12.3 strikeouts per 9. This guy Ks a bunch of guys. That's what the Rangers are betting on. They are betting on him fixing that walk problem a little bit, or not being as big of an issue, but good to see him getting his call up. I wonder what situation they'll put him in his first outing. Probably some kind of I don't know, mid-leverage situation, I'm guessing. I don't think they're going to throw him fully into the fire. They didn't throw him in this one, even though him pitching in that 7th or 8th inning instead of Jonathan Hernandez throwing multiple innings, maybe that might have been the move when the Rangers had a 5-run lead. It's not necessarily the closest game, but I don't know. I guess maybe they're waiting for a situation where the Rangers are losing, so it's even less pressure on him to do that. But getting another guy with a bunch of strikeout stuff in your bullpen is always a good move, and I am very much for it. But I do want to give a shout out to, speaking of Rangers guys, who are called up to the majors. This one was not with the Rangers. It was Mason Englert, old friend alert, a Rule 5 pick, a very surprising Rule 5 pick. He was not protected on the Rangers 40-man roster. He is a Forney, Texas native, did really, really well in AA last year, a guy with a 4-pitch mix. He's 23 years old. The Rangers, it doesn't have overwhelming stuff, but the Tigers picked him because they thought, hey, this guy has got some potential. Maybe I think he could be a number 4 or 5 starter in the big leagues if he reaches his zenith. But right now he's not good enough to be starting, nor should he be. He's honestly, I'm a little surprised at the amount of relative success that he's had at the big league level. 2 innings of shutout ball in this one, 1 strikeout, no walks, 4 hits. Just shout out to Mason Englert for staying in the big leagues. I know it's with the Tigers, who are a team not that far away from of being in front of their division. I know they're 25-27, still a solid record, and he is contributing for them in some capacity. I mean, Grant Schiller and I did our debutante draft of drafting Rangers prospects who would make their major league debut, and the first pick that Grant Schiller had was Mason Englert, and Englert has done fairly well in ERA below 5, which is honestly better than I was expecting, because the guy hasn't pitched above AA before he made it to the majors this year, and he's contributing. So congratulations to him. But one last thing, I didn't really talk about it that much in Monday's episode, but the Rangers put Ezequiel Duran on the 10-day IL with that oblique injury. Bruce Posey. No, Bruce Bochy. Those two names are still very intertwined, the BBs and all of those titles in San Francisco. But Bruce Bochy said it's probably just going to be about 10 days for Ezequiel Duran that he is on the IL. And it's a bit of a bummer for the Rangers offense, especially when they have the guys in the middle third of their lineup that are going through some struggles in Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim. Robbie Grossman has been fine on a decent tier, multi-walk game for him today, but you plug in guys like Bubba Thompson. No shade to Bubba Thompson, absolutely no shade. You plug him in the 9-hole as opposed to that being Leody Taveras. It just kind of makes this lineup just a little bit weaker, and I think having that thump of Ezequiel Duran, I don't think the Rangers realize how much they would miss it while he is gone. Hopefully we can have him back at the end of that 10 days and it won't have to extend any longer. I'm always a little worried about oblique strains because that's what started this whole process with Jacob deGrom in spring training. It was also basically what ruined Joey Gallo's MVP caliber season in 2019, and it also sidelined John Gray for a significant amount of time in 2022. So obliques, you need to be able to twist and turn in baseball. So I'm thinking it's not that bad because the Rangers put off putting him on the the IL for so long. So I'm hoping that their optimism is not misplaced and not misleading. I think the Rangers could really, really use Ezequiel Duran back in this lineup just very quickly. I know they just poured on 5 runs on the Tigers, but I mean, their starting pitcher, Matthew Boyd, I know his numbers are, his actual performances has been better than his, barely sub 6 ERA would indicate, and the Rangers did drop 5 on him in this one. But still, I miss those double-digit outings, those double-digit scoring performances. And if the Rangers have their peak lineup with, I think Ezequiel Duran in left field and eventually Mitch Garver back at DH and, Leody Taveras with the 3-hit day and hitting over 300 at an OPS at, where is it at now, 831 in your 9-hole, that is just a insanely talented lineup that this Ranger team can trot out there every single day, and starting pitching being what it is and going out there every single game and keeping you in it. And if the bullpen starts to right the ship, I mean, the sky is the freaking limit for this Rangers team. I think with the results today, the early loss by Baltimore to Cleveland and the Rangers win, the Rangers have retaken second best record in all of baseball, if not just the American League, from the Baltimore Orioles. This team is fantastic. We're heading into the month of June. We are past Memorial Day now, actually. So you can safely look at those standings, see the Rangers on top of the American League West with either a 2 or 3 game lead, depending on how the Astros game goes later today after I record this, and say, wow, this is a juggernaut Rangers team, and hopefully they can continue that momentum with another win and another series win against the Tigers on Tuesday. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.